Welcome back to Longbox Diving, where we explore comics and story arcs pulled from the Longbox. And it's time to do another story arc review, and we're still going through X-Men Legacy. So we're now on X-Men Legacy number 248. You got that pretty cool looking cover there. You actually see that what they look like up here, and then what they look like in the reflection, which is kind of like a pool of blood, they're different. All right. And then this X-Men 249, that's a pretty, a pretty awesome cover, and it's very, very poignant, right? It's very hard. It hit your heart if you know what you're looking at there. So this is an interesting story. We had the Age of X just finished. That is a crossover event, so we didn't cover it here. We may cover those later, but this is a crossover event called the Age of X, and basically what happened is Legion. As you know, Legion causes a lot of crossover events. So Legion, in his brain, had created an entity called Moria, like his mother, Moriah, however we pronounce it. I'm never good at the pronunciation thing. So she had the power to actually alter reality. All right, so it's part of his psyche, even though it's his mother's name. He created an entity that looked like his mother, but then gave her the power to alter reality, which is kind of interesting, seeing that Moira is actually a mutant who has the power to reset time, depending on if she dies after her mutant powers activate. So that was kind of interesting how that kind of fits a little bit. But so we got the X-Men coming out of this whole crossover event where this whole new reality was spun up. And so they're trying to deal with Legion, trying to get control of his personalities. We have apparently Cyclops was a different entity in this reality, but he fell in love with Frenzy, and they became a couple. And now that they're back in normal reality, he's like, none of that was real. None of that was cool. Yeah, I don't really like you, so, bug off. See you later. Have a good day. None of it was real. Just forget about it. Though they were almost married. I mean, they spent years in this alternate reality that Moira created, and even though it was only, in his brain. But still, she had real feelings, and Cyclops just, blew her off, whatever. Just forget about it. It was never real to begin with. Not cool. So that kind of set up a whole subplot that we're going to carry over into other story arcs. So that's kind of what this story arc is. It's just the aftermath is just kind of doing some subplot setups. We have the relationship of Rogue and Gambit. It's fallen apart. They're going to break up. We have Rachel Summers shows up in the Phoenix costume, but kind of in a ghost format. It's like a remnant. They call it like a remnant. It's just like a ghost. So, so Cyclops is like, hey, we'll figure out a way to get you to be human again. And then we have Magneto, and so Magneto went through a lot of different things during this crossover event, and it's kind of brought up old memories of things that happened to him in the past. But he's also fallen for Rogue as well, and they kind of fly off into the sunset. Now, the writer of this is Mike Carey, penciled by Jorge Molina, inked by Craig Young and Pat Davidson. So the cover is Miko So Young, and so the cover is pretty cool. So in here, the art is okay. There's some good. Let me get some good pics here. We got Legion getting super tall, right? When Rachel comes in as a Phoenix, I mean, that's really pretty nice. So the art here is really pretty good, and the story is again, it's not a full story in so much as is a lot of different plot string that he's setting up for the next arc. Then we go. This actually carries into this issue now. This is Rogue and Magneto on the cover, but if you look at Brett Montfrey, so that's a concentration camp, right? That's the banner over the concentration camp during World War II, where the Jews were rounded up by the Nazis and exterminated. So knowing that Magneto is a Jewish man, and that he remembers it. So in the comics, he was there. So what we kind of get is they're going into this museum of the Holocaust. And he sees a picture of a man he knew, August Hirt, the rector of Autonomy of Strasbourg in a university in 1940. And Magneto knows him. Magneto knew him enough that Magneto was the one that actually, I think, killed him or facilitated his death. So we got a lot of, there's a lot of old Nazi stuff going on in here. Magneto was picked by him for the experiments. So a lot of experimentation was going on. And then, Magneto kind of, when they heard the U.S. was coming, he kind of put a rope in the room and said, hey, you either need to kill yourself or we'll do it slowly. So, you got some good art there as well. And so we have this story where Magneto's kind of going back in the past and remembering all this thing. Well, at the same time, you now have Frenzy dealing with the fact that that Cyclops just said, beat it. None of it was real. But in her brain, it was very real. She has very vivid memories of them being together. And she is, she was a villain at one time. Part of the Mutant Brotherhood or something like that. And so she's like, I'm done with this. And then she's like, okay, I got to settle down. Gambit kind of tries to help her a little bit. And she's going to take on a new personality. And I'm going to try to deal with this. Which is going to, again, carry into other story arcs further on. Then we have Legion. Now, they've created a watch. Now, I don't know if anybody out there has ever watched Ben 10. Where he turns the watch and he turns into a different alien, right? Basically, that's what Carey does here for Legion. He gives him a Ben 10 watch. And Legion can then call up any one of the personalities. I think there's 1,100 something personalities. I can't remember. I got to figure out which one he's talking. But it says it somewhere. Like 1,100 different personalities that he can be. And they're having problems with a few of them. And the ones that are having problems with a guy named In-Game, Susan in Sunshine, Time Sync, Chain, The Bleeding Edge, and Styx. We kind of get an image of them there. All right, so some interesting stuff here. Chain can take over a person. As long as he touches them, it can take over a person, and that person becomes another part of the chain, and then has a different weapon. And then he's like every one of the chains has a different weapon. In game is basically like an indestructible thing. It just kind of changes form, whatever it needs to change to continue to destroy you. Time Sync was pretty cool. Because Time Sync cannot just control time, but it can actually control what you're doing and send it back and forth in time, depending, like Magneto tries to hit him with a pulse of, magnetism, whatever, and he sends it back in time, and Magneto ends up killing people with it. Susan Sunshine, the only way to defeat her, because she uses empathy, and she can control you, the only way to make win against her is to basically make her cry. And so you got all this Styx, man. Styx just crazy. Like he can possess people and take them over. So some interesting stuff. Then again, setting up for another arc further on, and then we end with a Magneto and Rogue kiss. They are back together apparently, and that starts again this next, within this next series. So overall, as a story arc, it's not really a story. It's more of setting up a lot of plots. A lot of the plots are very interesting. So on the covers, this looks really cool. I'm going to give that a 4. And again, this is very touching for me. And I give that also a 4. The story, I'm going to give it 3. Again, not a lot of story and more of setting up stuff. Art, I'm going to put it at a 3.5. Some really good art. Now, this one had a different artist. So this was written by Mike Carey. That's 359 or 349. Mike Carey, but the art was by Rafa Sandoval. So I'd say the art in here to me was better. All right, so I'm going to put the art in here at a 3.5, and I'll put the art in here at a 3. So overall, the series is probably a 3.2 for the whole story arc. Again, it's from X-Men Legacy 248 and X-Men Legacy 249, written by Mike Carey. We have artists Molina and Sandoval. The art and the story, fantastic stuff. It was a good carryover to the next link in the chain of stories. So we'll see you next time here in the Long Box.